from the Crypt.
Welcome, friends and fiends, to the Cryptique Podcast. My name's Kenny, and I'm here with my good friend Godden. And together, we're here to watch and review every horrific, often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. And here we are. I'm Kenny, and this is Godden. We're here to watch and review some Tales from the Crypt. So let's do it, Godden. Godden, you got your mouth full. You're eating.
I know. That's a good morning, I had to get something, stomach.
you gotta choke something down. Well, good morning, Godden. What's for breakfast, by the way?
Leftover chicken.
Leftover chicken. All right. Well, we are here to watch and review some Tales from the Crypt. So let's get on with it. We are on season 1, episode 4, Only Sin Deep. This aired on June 14th, 1989, and it comes from the comic The Haunt of Fear, which already tells me that maybe this won't be the most horrific episode coming from The Haunt of Fear, but we'll see what happens. So before we start talking about this episode, I do want to remind you all about our spoiler warning. We're going to go deep into each scene, and we're going to be talking about this episode in great detail. So if you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it before you listen to us blab about it, all right? So there was your warning. Let me start by reading the script, inked in blood on human flesh, from the back of the DVD box set here. Only Sin Deep. A call girl plans to land a rich playboy and pawns her beauty in order to dress to impress. What? She misunderstands the pawn shop's refund offer. Too late to read between the lines and wrinkles. Girly. All right. So before we start here, Godden, what were your overall thoughts on this episode?
Pretty woman, but Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, it was very Pretty Woman-y. It absolutely was very Pretty Woman-y.
There's one scene in particular that really gave me the Pretty Woman vibes.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Yeah.
When did Pretty Woman come out? Actually, that is a good.
The 80s, right?
And was it the 80s or the early 90s?
Here, let me do a quick search.
Yeah, check that out. Let's see.
Oh wow, 90.
So 90. So this actually predates Pretty Woman
by a year. Wow, they stole the idea.
I wonder.
Tales from the Crypt.
I wonder if I wonder if they were watching this. So this predates it. So this is definitely a very similar tale, and much more gory.
That's funny.
Much more horrific in this one. Not so much a happy ending like in Pretty Woman.
That's true.
This episode opens up with a mirror on the wall. What do you know? And the Crypt Keeper peers into the mirror and says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fiercest of them all?" And at that moment, the mirror cracks, telling us that the Crypt Keeper is so ugly he breaks mirrors. And I like this moment a lot, actually, because remember, this is the first episode after the season premiere, or the series premiere, which was 3 episodes in one. In all of those 3 episodes, the Crypt Keeper was depicted in a very similar way, very ghoulish and breathy and very eerie and ominous. And this is, I think, the very first time when we have a joke made at the Crypt Keeper's expense. So I like this moment for that. It's starting to kind of wear down the Crypt Keeper and make him a little more silly, or at least able to have fun be made of him, which I really like that moment.
Yeah, I love that intro because he's just the squeaking of him cleaning the mirror, saying squeak, squeak. Just I already knew what kind of how it's gonna be as it evolves for the Crypt Keeper. Just more goofy.
Yeah, definitely more goofy, which I definitely appreciate. Definitely appreciate the goofiness being brought in by episode 4. So we don't have to wait long before we start to see, essence of the Crypt Keeper really start to shine through. All right. So he introduces the story. Beauty is only sin deep. Of course, being a pun off of beauty is only skin deep. So opening panel. It seems to be a very beautiful woman dressed in a ritzy kind of a cocktail party dress. And she's backed up against what looks to be maybe a mirror or some sort of glass. And in the reflection is of a very, very old, wrinkly, aged woman with graying hair. And if you're familiar with the episode, you'll notice that the cabinet that she's up against, or that's reflecting in the mirror, is the cabinet that we see later on in the episode in the pawn shop. You see the masks that are made there, and some books and some old kind of voodoo stuff on the shelves in the background there.
Oh, I didn't catch that actually.
You'll also notice she's wearing some jewelry, some earrings, and a bracelet. No necklace though. No necklace, which is interesting because she was wearing a pearl necklace in the episode. The scene opens on the streets. These are remember, they are, what do they call them I want to call them prostitutes, but what do they call them here? They call them
call girls. Yeah.
Call girls. Yeah, call girls. Basically, kind of I guess, is a call girl like an upscale prostitute? Is that what that is?
I thought upscale prostitutes were escorts,
oh.
but yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't really dabble in that world, Godden. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. Oh well.
Oh well.
Our loss.
We're introduced to the two main call girls here, Raven and Sylvia. And Sylvia is looking into a mirror, putting on her makeup. And I like how Raven interrupts her. She says, "If I had $1 for every time you stood in the mirror admiring your face, I could get off these streets and retire to the Bahamas."
Shows how often she looks at herself.
Right.
Or, tells us, yeah.
Yeah, so she definitely spends a long time looking at herself. Then eventually we're introduced to a man who comes up to Sylvia and says, "A pretty girl like you could use a manager." So he's quite clearly the pimp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia doesn't really take too kindly to him. She doesn't really want a manager. She doesn't want a pimp. She doesn't want anything to do with him. So she kind of, is rude to him, and he kind of goes along his way. And then eventually the two eye this very, very suave looking Richard Gere type character across the street. He gets out of a fancy car and goes into a fancy hotel with a pretty woman by his side. And the two girls just kind of, I guess, goggle at him, kind of hoping that maybe they can someday be by his side. But Raven, of course, being the realist, says, "Dream on, honey, because ain't nobody inviting you."
Yeah, I like her. She gave a lot of sass, a lot of attitude. She was a good character. I thought she was. Yeah, I thought she was better looking than Sylvia, but she wasn't the main character, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I liked Raven too. She was the realist. She was the one who was. I got the impression that she may have been on the streets longer than Sylvia. She was more
just like Pretty Woman, right?
Yeah, she was more familiar with what was going on and who people were,
Mm-hmm.
and she's the one who had the pimp, and the pimp was trying to get Sylvia on board. So Raven clearly had already gone through all of these situations before. Seemed more familiar with the streets.
Yeah.
So after they see this, this Richard Gere character, Sylvia actually seduces the pimp to the back alley. And they're very flirtatious. They're kind of hugging up on each other. And I love this moment here. I love how this pimp character actually refers to himself as Pimp Daddy.
Yeah.
He says, "How about a little sugar for Pimp Daddy?"
Oh, I thought he'd last longer. I thought there'd be a couple more scenes, but the fact that that's the last time we kind of see him is the alleyway. Yeah,
because she reaches into his pocket, she pulls out his gun and shoots him and takes all of his money and all of his jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of Dear Pimp Daddy.
Oh, Pimp Daddy. He was just doing his job.
Right? He's just doing his job. So the next scene is Sylvia going into a pawn shop to try to pawn off, all this jewelry that she had gotten. And while she's there, she starts kind of looking at the shelves and kind of what's on the, on display. And she notices that there's a lot of voodoo stuff, kind of interesting tribal masks and dolls and all kinds of weird kind of things on the shelf. So already this place is kind of weird. And then a veiled woman also goes into the pawn shop and shouts, "You bastard, you stole it." And she smashes on the table everything that's kind of there on the counter and makes a mess of things. And then she runs out of the pawn shop. So there's something going on here with this pawn shop person. So it turns out, though, that the pawn shop dealer is not interested in any of these jewels. He says, it's hot. You can fry an egg on the son of a bitch. So Sylvia's not going to have any luck trading in these jewels. So she starts to walk out, but then the pawn shop dealer says, I can see you got something worth a whole lot more. And he offers her $10,000 cash to make a mold of her face. But he clarifies, though, not of her face, of her beauty. I also like in this moment that when he offers her the cash, he holds up a wad of cash. Like he's holding up all the money and says $10,000, and then he throws in cash. Like she can't see that he's holding up a wad of cash.
I did like the pawn dealer. He's a pretty cool character. Like he's just like creepy and like he's a good businessman, you know. He's getting things done.
Yeah. I liked him too. He definitely had a little bit of the creep factor going on. Every scene in the pawn shop I felt was kind of creepy, which I liked. I definitely appreciated all the scenes in the pawn shop. So she agrees and lets the pawn dealer make a mold of her face. And if she wants it back, if she wants to get the mold back, she has to come back within 4 months and give him back the $10,000 to get the mold back.
Plus 12%.
Oh, right. Plus 12%.
Yeah.
So basically for, $11,200, she can come back and she can get the mold of her face back.
It's not really worth it. Just a mold. You just get the mold of your face for that much.
Right. Yeah. Just keep it. Yeah. Well, I mean, from her perspective, why not? Like, it's just a mold of her face.
It's just a mold.
That's all it seems to be to her. But little does she know that once she leaves the pawn shop, this pawn dealer starts chanting in like a trance-like state over the new mold that he just made. And he gets up and he approaches a casket that's right in the back of the pawn shop. And he says, he says, almost time, my love. You'll look just like you did before, like the day we were married. And the camera goes down and you see this like rotting skeleton in the casket. So something's going on. Something strange is going on.
It's funny because like it looks like the Crypt Keeper or a relative of the Crypt Keeper just in the casket. Or maybe that could have been like one of their prototypes that they were going to make the Crypt Keeper, but then they just decided to use it in another episode or something. You know, like, oh, let's just put it there.
Oh, that's interesting.
It looked very like it.
Yeah, I wonder if they had, like a bunch of prototypes lying around and they're like, we need something to put in this casket. And they're like, well, what about this? They just kind of dump that in there, throw a little wedding dress on it and call it done. So this next scene, we learn that Sylvia is making very good use of her $10,000. We're treated to a montage of her trying on a bunch of nice fancy clothes, getting a makeover, her hair done, her makeup done, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of this montage, I like how the final shot is of her throwing out a wad of cash and having it rain down on her. Like just a blip of like a tiniest, shortest little piece of the montage. The very end was like just a bunch of money cascading down over her.
Yeah, and that was actually the scene that made me, have that Pretty Woman like vibe. Is that whole like montage of her, getting new things. Like that was pretty much the whole entire segment for me. Yeah,
all we were missing was one scene of her being asked to leave.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I tried to buy something here, you wouldn't let me? Yeah, big mistake.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the next scene, she's all dressed up, all nice, and she goes to that one hotel where they saw that, rich Richard Gere character. And she goes to the top floor into the penthouse and goes into the party. And the moment she walks into the party, you see that she catches the eye of every single man in the room. The camera kind of pans across the entire party, and every single man there turns to look at who just walked through the door. And she is, by 1980s standards, gorgeous. And the reason I say 1980s standard is because her hair, I think, stands out the most as being the most dated. From the neck down, I think she looks timeless. But from the neck up with her frizzy hair, and it's just so like it's just so 1980s. Her hair is just so teased out, and it's so just it definitely looks of its time. Next up, we have one of my favorite scenes, which is she finally gets a chance to meet the man who's been catching her eye. And I love their whole meeting. To me, is just so hilariously stupid. I love it. I've watched this scene a couple of times. It was really funny to me. He walks up to her and says, hello. And she says, hello yourself, and walks away. Well, of course, this, rich, debonair, very well-to-do man never has a woman walk away from him. So he's automatically intrigued. So he walks over to her and they introduce themselves. And we learn that her name is, get this, Sylvia Vane. Vane, as in the weather.
Yeah.
Not to be confused.
I love when she says that.
Not to be confused with vain being, somebody who wants to look in the mirror all the time.
Like the weather. Okay.
And I love his name as well, Ronnie Price, because I assume Richie Rich was taken or something.
No, because everyone has a price.
That's right. That's right.
That's what he said,
everyone
yeah.
has one. Everyone has a price.
Yeah.
There's also a moment where Sylvia eyes the woman that Ronnie was with earlier, and she says, I think she might be getting the wrong idea. And he responds, I was kind of hoping the wrong idea might become the right idea.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I don't know what's going on. Like, I guess they were both just trying to, like, not show their full, intention with each other. Like, let's just keep playing games.
Right.
It
was very playing games like. And she ends up slapping him out of nowhere. She just slaps him across the face.
Oh, yeah.
And then she walks away. And his response, she's walking away. She gets to the elevator. She's about to walk in the elevator. And he comes up behind her and he says, don't you think it's a little rude to slap the host and then leave without saying goodbye? This couple, I think, really were made for each other. They're so weird.
I think so. Yeah.
And he says, I don't even know who you are. And she responds, I'm the girl of your dreams. And I think she is. I think they're both their dream mate. I think they're absolutely made for each other, because if I walked up to a pretty woman and said hello, and she said hello yourself and walked away, okay, we're done. You go about your business, I'll go about mine. We're done with this. But the fact that he followed her after saying that and then kept following her after she slapped him, like these are a couple made for each other. Let me tell you.
And they definitely were.
Yeah. So the next scene is 4 months later. And they're still together. She's up in the penthouse. She's taking a bath. And he's right behind her. And he gives her a beautiful necklace. And he says, remember 4 months ago when you said you were the woman of my dreams? Well, you still are. So even after 4 months, they still have the hots for each other. And they're still going at it. They're still very happily together. Although she starts to notice that there's some wrinkles starting to form around her face. So she's very self-conscious about this, and she turns the light off when he comes into the room to talk to her, which tells you that she's very self-conscious about these wrinkles. She doesn't want him to see them. And so the next thing, she goes to a dermatologist. She goes to a dermatologist to get this checked out. Why are these wrinkles happening? And he rules out it's not cancer, but he does point out that, her skin does seem to be aging at an accelerated rate. And he asks her if she recalls coming into contact with anything strange in the last few months. And then she has a sudden recollection. 4 months ago, that pawn shop dealer made a mold of my face.
Yeah. It was also kind of funny too, because he also asked, like, it's weird that you don't have any kind of plastic surgery or reconstruction surgery, because like these are the symptoms, I guess, if you were to have those kind of things. And she was offended by it, but I also feel like she would have had those surgeries down the line if she wanted them. So it just like showed like how much more vain she would have been anyways. Like she would have just done that. Like I don't think it's out of character for her to like have those. Like she was just so offended. She's like, no. It's all pure natural,
like,
baby.
I don't need those yet, right? Like maybe kind of that attitude, right?
Yeah, it was definitely that attitude.
Right. Not necessarily that she would get it, but that she would get it so soon in her life, because she's only like in her 20s, right?
Yeah, she said she's only 21.
Okay,
yeah.
That's pretty young.
She's like, what are we look like tomorrow? It's like, that's true. What are you look like tomorrow?
So she goes back to the pawn shop and try to figure out what's going on. And she learns that she can't buy her mask back, which is where her beauty is, because it's 4 months and a day has gone by. So that's 1 day too many. She can't buy it back. But the pawn shop dealer is willing to sell it back to her for $100,000. So this is a lot more than 12%.
Crazy. It's only been 1 day and so I get marked up.
Right. Can you imagine how much it's going to be tomorrow?
Yeah, because she was getting aggravated with the whole thing, and I don't blame her. And then, she pulls out her handy dandy Walther, the same pistol she used at Pimp Daddy, and then she's like, just even it's a markup. And then he really marked it up to 100,000.
Right, that's right.
Which is
she pulled the
crazy.
gun on him first. That's right. She did.
Yeah.
She pulled the gun on him first, and then he was like, "Okay, fine, I'll sell it back to you, but it's going to be 100,000." And you'd figure, like, she could just shoot him. She's already killed a man. Just shoot the pawn shop dealer and just take the mask and be over with it.
I think she wanted to, but we got beat by another character who comes in play, who was just a cop. Just waltz right in. And I love how frantic she was. She was like, grabbing everything. It's like, oh, no gun, there's nothing. She's just an old, she's a lady, just at a pawn shop. She wasn't putting the guy at a position, life or death.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that part.
Funny, yeah.
I forgot about that part. Yeah, at that moment, a cop does walk in. So, okay, I guess that does thwart her plans to just shoot the pawn shop dealer right there. So she goes back to the penthouse and she starts rummaging through all the stuff and taking as much jewelry and cash as she can. And while she's doing this, she's breaking all the mirrors in the house that she comes across. She just can't stand to look at herself aging the way she is. So, I
also...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I also didn't understand why she's breaking everything. Because it just made no sense. Like, I guess the mirror part, but I don't remember her looking at the mirror. Like, when she went to the vase and grabbed, like, the bills that was hidden in the vase, and she throws the whole vase, like, at the glass mirror or whatever it was. I was like, what is happening? Like, she's just breaking everything for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't get it at that point. I was like, a little extra,
Yeah, well, it's definitely clear why she's breaking the mirrors, right? They symbolize a reflection looking at yourself. But the vase, that's interesting. I wonder if it has to do with flowers being something of beauty. And she's using beauty to destroy the mirror. I wonder if that has something to do
just
with
anything
it.
that's... Oh, okay. Maybe, actually.
I don't know either, though. I don't know. She just, it's probably just whatever was nearest by. She just wanted to break the mirror somehow.
Yeah. She was just that upset, I guess,
So
Yeah,
while
that's
she's
what it
doing
is.
all this, while she's kind of basically burglarizing her own house, while she's doing all of this, Richie Rich comes back. What's his name?
Ronnie Price.
Ronnie Price. That's right. Ronnie Price comes back, and he says something which is very haunting to her, and rightfully so. He says, "Who are you?" He doesn't recognize her.
Yeah.
She's aged so much, and her skin starts to look so wrinkly and so saggy that he doesn't even recognize her. So he calls the police, and while he's on the phone with the police, Sylvia shoots him right there. Shoots him dead. The man of her dreams. She can slap him in the face and he'll come running, and she shoots him. Do you think if he didn't die from the gunshots that he would come running back to her?
Honestly, they're only 4 months in the relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too soon to know.
Well, I was thinking that, if he didn't die from those gunshots, he might run and try to catch her and say, it's really rude to shoot a man in his own house and then leave without saying goodbye.
Oh. Yeah, because she slapped him and was going to leave without saying goodbye, but this time she shot him without saying goodbye. That's so funny that happens like that.
Yeah. That joke fell flat. Maybe I'll cut that out as the final.
No, but maybe, that basically happened twice. She was just going to leave either way without saying goodbye. It just was consistent. Maybe that's just who she is.
That's just who she is. So she takes all the money and the jewels and she goes back to the pawn shop, and she doesn't go through the front entrance this time, though. She breaks into the pawn shop from the backside. She goes in through the back door, and going through that way, she sees the casket, the same casket that had the wife in it, the pawn shop dealer's wife. And she sees inside is actually now a very beautiful woman. It's no longer that crypt keeper looking, mummified skeleton, whatever it was. At that moment, The pawn shop dealer walks in and says, "She used to be so beautiful. Now I need other women's beauty just to keep her that way." But that moment, Sylvia offers everything she stole and says, "I just want my beauty back." And he says, "Sure, I can give you back your beauty if that's what you really want." And at the same time, he's holding a wanted poster with her face on it. And at that moment, the officer walks into the pawn shop and he starts talking about this, this murder case that just happened in some penthouse. And he says, "Classic dumb broad. She stole every scrap of jewelry the guy bought for her. Then she offs the guy, leaves the murder weapon on the floor with her fingerprints all over the gun." So basically at this point, like if she reverts back to how she used to look, then she'll definitely get noticed as being the murderer of her lover.
Anywhere she shows up, yeah.
Right. And the cop goes on to say, the second she shows her face anywhere, it's a one-way trip to the electric chair. And of course, my mind went right to Niles, pulling the lever from episode 1. So I like that the show obviously keeps coming back to the electric chair. That's kind of their go-to for capital punishment. So at that moment, Sylvia takes her mask and sneaks back out the back door and runs away with her mask. Did she leave the money? I don't know if she left the money. Is she getting this for free?
Well, she dropped everything in that little nightstand initially, so maybe the cash was also there because there was all the jewelry that just dropped out with all the rings and whatnot.
Okay, so she did leave. So she's not a thief then. She left everything there and she took the mask. Okay.
She left a tip. Yeah.
Right. She's a murderer of 2 men, but she's not a thief. Or she's a thief because she stole everything from Richie Rich. No, Ronnie Price. Anyway, so while she's running away with the mask, she's back out on the streets, and who should be right there but her old friend Raven. She bumps into Raven, which causes her to drop the mask onto the street, and it shatters into a bunch of pieces. And she looks up at Raven, and even Raven, her friend, doesn't recognize her. She says, "Watch where you're going, you old, ugly, trifling bitch."
Yeah.
And that's where the scene ends. It just kind of, the camera pulls back, and you see her there, crouched in the street, holding on to what's left of her beauty, just alone on the streets. Then we come back to the Crypt Keeper, and he's putting Acme acne cream on his face as a skincare regimen. So even the Crypt Keeper takes care of his appearance using the skincare. But that was funny. He says, "Poor Sylvia. Guess she heard the old saying, if looks could kill. So she did." He leaves us with one more line saying, "If you want to sell yourself, take a look in the mirror first." And he looks back into the mirror that he broke in the very beginning of the episode. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's decent, honestly. It wasn't really much to it's Pretty Woman. I like it 'cause it's Pretty Woman. A different twist to it.
Yeah. Or maybe Pretty Woman is a different twist on this.
Oh yeah, because this came out a little bit first. Yeah. You're right.
Interesting.
I do like the original Pretty Woman. You're right. This is the original Pretty Woman for me.
I think I would rather watch the original Pretty Woman. I wasn't a big fan of this episode. I felt like there's no horrific gore or anything like that. There were some creepy scenes in the pawn shop that was kind of interesting. I liked those scenes, but as a whole, it just wasn't creepy. It wasn't scary. It wasn't grotesque in any way. It just felt like it was just kind of boring. I didn't like the twist either. I felt like her being stuck as an old, ugly woman was better when it was her own fault. If she had the ability to go back the way she looked before, but couldn't because she would get caught, I like that twist. It should have ended right there. But to have her run out into the streets and then just happen to be bumped and drop the mask, I felt like that was now she can't go back. But I think it would have hit harder if she could have gone back, but couldn't. Does that make sense?
Oh, well, as she's so vain enough, she would still go back to her beauty and just get capital punishment, just because she'd rather look good.
No, I feel it would be more impactful of an ending if she had the ability to go back, but couldn't because she would get caught. Instead, she just doesn't have the ability at all to go back because she lost her beauty. It broke on the streets there.
I see. Yeah, maybe it's like one of those things. Like there could have been multiple ways to end it, but they just didn't know what's. I guess they just decided that way. Where she just bumps into her friend and she gets called a trifling bitch.
So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this episode. Although I really, like I said, I like the moments in the pawn shop. But my favorite moment in the episode was their whole meet cute. I love the whole hello yourself, and then she walks away. I love the slap in the face. I love him running after her. That whole the whole dialogue I thought was just so so awkward and weird, but I just loved every moment of it. I really liked that whole moment up in the upstairs penthouse during that party.
Yeah, I think it's because like they were meant for each other, so like they had their own like world, like like that's just how they talk to each other, and only they get it. The two of us, like, we don't understand what's happening. It just seems awkward. But that's what they like. That's what they're chasing for each other. Like the playing games with each other. Like, because at one point she's like, "I'm just playing hard to get." And I think that's when she walked away. Because I remember her saying that line.
Yeah,
and he was confused too. He was like, "What's happening?"
Did you have a favorite moment in the episode?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of favorite moments. Yeah, apart from her and Ronnie Price just having their little mating call or whatever it was, mating ritual in the beginning. I did like the cop coming in because, yeah, every time that cop came in, he always had 2 cups of coffee or a cup of coffee, and then he would ask, we never got the pawn shop's name, huh? We never got his name.
I think it was John. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, he'd walk in and always ask John for like a pour up, and then, John would just give him like liquor or like whatever he had, and just off the gates, when the cop starts his day or off his first break, he's just having alcohol. Like, yep, right. That's how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have. Come to think of it, I do like their relationship. Yeah, the cop seems to come in often and just kind of check in, and that's, I guess, maybe I wonder if it's either before his shift or is it during his shift. Like that's part of his route is to come in and check on the pawn shop, and while he's there, he just has like a little drink.
Gets liquor, yeah.
Because he would always the pawn shop guy would take out a flask of liquor and pour it into his coffee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, I like their relationship. It wasn't like a good aligning moral, but it was fun to see that kind of interaction, because to go back to when towards the end where she finds out she's on a wanted poster and that the cop also is knows about the case. They were talking about like her beauty. It's like, yeah, I guess if you look that good, you don't need a whole lot of brains, and you just like burst out laughing. He just starts making fun of like, yeah, not much of a rocket scientist up there.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, he was pretty harsh to her behind her back.
Yeah. Or in front of her, because like she overheard it.
Right. And I wonder how much of that affects her. Is like, I wonder if insulting her intelligence is as insulting to her as it would be insulting her beauty.
Right.
I wonder how much of that affected her. Did you have a favorite shriek of the week from the Crypt Keeper? I
think when he broke the mirror and he's like, well, I guess I got myself 7 more bad years of luck. Like he's like kind of happy with it. Like that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Because like he's like,
that was my favorite moment too, him breaking the mirror. Yeah. Like I said before, I really like how at this point we start to break into the Crypt Keeper and start, poking fun at his expense. I really like that moment.
Oh yeah, because that was the first time. I think that was the first time he called us like kitties. Like that's when he like starts reviewing. Because at the end he says boils and ghouls. Like I was also happy. That was the first time I heard it.
Yeah, I think he did say. I think he didn't say boys and ghouls at the end of an episode. I think it might have been definitely at the end of episode 2, all through the house. He definitely said boys and ghouls.
Oh, I didn't catch that then. I thought this was the first time I heard it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the whole acne skin routine with him was also kind of funny. Like this was like when he started to get more funnier, like just with what he's doing.
So okay, let's get to the scoring here. Let's get to the ranking. What would you give this out of 5?
Don't hate me, but I will give it a 3. It's just simple. It is, I can see why it's boring, but it's a simple concept.
3?
And, yeah. Okay. It's a 3. I think it's just decent.
I wasn't as impressed with this episode. I'm going to give this 2 slaps in the face.
2 slaps? Okay.
2 slaps.
I'll give it 3 busts or 3 molds.
Okay, yeah. So I give it 2 because it was fine. I guess it was entertaining enough. But for Tales from the Crypt, I just really feel like even with this is only the 4th episode, and the first 3, it's just such a different tone. It's just a complete tone shift. It doesn't align with what we've seen so far, and it doesn't align with where the show really goes. It's just kind of an oddball, kind of a weird romance love story. Not very horrific, not very scary. And the twist was kind of lackluster. So I'm going to go with a 2. So not the greatest episode. And after that trifecta, right, that 3 episode launch, you wait a week and then you get this episode. You might be thinking, what is going on here? This is a weird episode. So, all right. So 2 and a 3. There you go, for an average of 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
So before we go, I want a little bit of just correspondence. You guys feel free to message us with any questions, comments, or concerns you have about our show. We'll be happy to review them and to share them in future episodes. I also would like to ask you that if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I want you to consider leaving a review. We're new. This is a new show. We're trying to get going on this, and a positive review can go a long way for our new show. So please help us make this show really go to the next level by giving us a positive review. And with that, we bid you adieu. Next week, we will be watching Season 1, Episode 5, Lover Come Hack to Me. If you're following along on your own, watch that episode before next week, and you can kind of listen to us blather about it. And if you send us your comments by then, we'll make sure to read them on our next episode. All right. With that, my name's Kenny. I'm here with Godden, and you can catch us on our socials. Can be found at 2 Bad About Kenny. That's 2 TOO Bad About Kenny, as well as the number 2 Bad About Kenny. And Godden, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitch. It's going to be UAPP06, just my name upside down. I do frequently game, but I haven't been streaming as much.
Fabulous. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week with Lover Come Hack to Me. All right. Good night, everybody.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?